Do you want some banter? Do you want some classic movie banter?
I think I'm entitled.
You want some banter?
I want some banter.
You can handle the banter. Wow, what an opening.
Welcome to Classic Movie Banter. You know that show where I, that guy Brenton,
Yes.
and that other guy, that Nathan, we talk about movies that are 20 years or older.
20 years.
20 years. That makes them classics, guys. And guess what? We talk about these movies and we tell them whether they are worth your time. Yeah, the weather as well. Yeah, we talk about if these films are worth your time or if they are worth, taking that DVD disc.
Taking them to court and suing their ass.
No, I reckon you snap that disc in half. So you got two halves of the disc. You put one on a bench and you use the other one as like a judge's cudgel thing. And you use it to
you smash it with a hammer.
Yeah, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. So yeah, we tell you whether they're worth your time or they're worth doing that.
Do they hold up in 2019?
Yeah, I don't know. Do they?
Do they? Let's find out.
I don't know. Yeah, so that's the crux of the podcast, and you guys know if you've listened to us before that we like to throw in some banter in there for some good measure as well. We like that cheeky little bit of banter, as they say, Nathan.
Yes, we do, Brenton. You're looking less shit today, so well done, buddy.
I thank you. I actually tried for once.
We're both crawling. We had a big night out last night, didn't we, Brenton? We're both recovering.
We are. But you know what? That's not what we're here to talk about.
No.
What we're here to talk about last night, we're talking about 20 years ago.
We are.
Well, not exactly, but over 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
20 years ago in 1992,
Ooh.
when A Few Good Men was released in cinemas. And we're here to talk about that movie, and we're here to tell you whether it's worth your time or not. Now, Nathan,
yes.
I believe you have a question for me, because this is an even-numbered episode.
It is, Brenton. So could we please... could you please be Tom Cruise in this equation? Because I'd love the idea of Tom Cruise pitching a movie. But can you please pitch me A Few Good Men?
I'm not doing an impersonation of a crazy Scientologist.
All you got to do is just kick the door down and just be like, whoa!
Pretty much. I mean, you talk at the back of your throat like this sometimes.
Have you seen that Scientology video where he rants for 10 minutes? I
have not. I have better things to do with my time.
Oh, you should just do the pitch just like that. He's like the best thing in the world is this movie, A Few Good Men. Let's just make it, man.
So Nathan, shall I tell you about A Few Good Men?
Please do. Are you Aaron Sorkin then, the writer of this?
Mate, I am Brenton, and I'm here to talk to you about A Few Good Men.
Fantastic.
And about why it should be made in today's market. So let me just...
Today's 1992 market.
So let's talk about this film. Guys, I'm here to talk to you about this film. This script written by this guy called Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin, never heard of him in 1992.
You might not have heard of him, but it's this great screenplay, and what it involves is that at this military base in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, there is a suspicious death that happens of a young private. Ooh. That is I'm not sure if he's a private actually. Anyway, he's a soldier that is killed in his barracks one night.
Oh no! Was he fighting the Cubans?
No, Nathan. Let me explain.
Ooh.
Let me explain you with my pitch that he was actually the cause of his death is not quite known, but it is clear that it was caused in part by two of his fellow platoon members who came into his barracks at night and presumably murdered the poor soldier.
In fact, ironically, is this whole movie about trying to work out what happened that night?
Nathan, that is exactly what this film is about.
Ooh.
So basically what happens is that
So does Jack Nicholson reprise his role from Chinatown and do some detecting?
No, Nathan. So with the pitch, it is actually what happens is that we are then sent to a court case where basically Tom Cruise is brought in to defend the two perpetrators of the murder, who said that they were just following orders.
Oh.
Why would someone order them to kill a fellow soldier?
Ooh.
Well, that is what this film is about. And it covers whether the army itself should take matters into their own hands in terms of how they train their soldiers and how they punish their soldiers accordingly, and whether or not that should be regulated by the government or left to those soldiers who are trying to defend their country at all costs. And that is A Few Good Men.
Oh, so Tom Cruise. Okay, I've known him from such action roles, as Tom Cruise does. So is he like an action lawyer? Does he beat up the persecutors? Like,
Nathan, this is a legal film. It is a film that takes place basically all in a courtroom.
Ah.
It is not an action-packed film.
Oh.
This is a drama.
Oh.
It is a high-stakes drama that is all about that screenplay and about that performance and about that acting and about that dialogue.
Ah.
It is not about flashy action scenes. So that is A Few Good Men, and that is my final pitch, my friend.
Well done. All right, I'm going to catch that ball that you've pitched to me, and I'm going to throw it back at you, and it's going to be filled with money, Brenton, because I want you to make this movie. Whoa, man.
Whoa, it really is. Holy shit.
When directors talk about pitching a movie, they literally just like throw balls at executives until they get money. Like, ugh, it's like dodgeball. Like.
So Nathan, let's get into it.
Yes.
I'm ripping the band-aid off my arm.
Fantastic.
It's been
You got
thrown in
band-aids
that-
from the pitch, like from all the balls hitting you.
Yeah.
Like.
Whoa, Jesus, there's bruises all over me. But it's in the corner, that band-aid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to get into it. And I just want to say that I think this movie is good. I think this movie's quite good. I think this is a good film.
I
And I
agree.
think that what stands out to me...
I think good's the right adjective as well.
Yes, I think it's very good.
Mm.
And I would say that the screenplay is outstanding. And I would also say that the performances, for the most part, are pretty well done, I'd say, as well.
Yeah.
They're what stand out to me, but at the same time, there is some good filming techniques. The way the framing's used to capture these scenes is quite good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that my main criticism is that, like, sometimes I think the corniness or the cheesiness, as they say, gets in the way of.
It's very Hollywood, isn't it?
It is, in a sense, because the film is about a case that isn't black and white, and yet sometimes it takes liberties with how it presents.
I just imagine when you say the case is not in black and white, I like to think the legal documents are all in these different colored fonts. Like they've gone crazy with the word art.
It's they basically, this film is not in black and white, and it is a story that is
It's in Technicolor.
yes, it is. It's about a case that is very complicated. There's that word, I finally said it again. It took
Fantastic.
a few episodes, but it is complicated. And I feel like sometimes the director or the editor and the DOP are trying to kind of layer or ram this message down your throat a bit, and that is my only real criticism with the film. But I think at its core, it is a good film that asks a lot of good questions, and I was really invested in it. Nathan, what do you think?
I think it's good. I think, yeah, I actually really agree a lot with what you said there. I think to add to that list of criticisms, why I think it's good and I don't think it's excellent, is that I think the film's a little bit bogged down by the legal terms. It's very Aaron Sorkin, which is both a pro and con, because a lot of the movie is Tom Cruise whipping out all these legal terms and his assistants lipping out all these legal terms, and they're talking back and forth about court of law, and like you can follow it, but like it's a lot of face past like dialogue, and normally I'd like that, but like I don't know, it's really caught up in the legal stuff about it. Like I don't know, and like it does go for the underdog angle, but like you said, it is very cheesy in that retrospect, and like I feel like the movie almost loses its oomph when like it tries to add more on top of that. So like when you spend like all the like there's basically like some side plots to the movie, but not really. Like I don't know. I feel like apart from Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson, you don't really get much exploration of any other characters.
No, I think you could say Demi Moore maybe.
Yeah.
I also think
Because Demi Moore kind of starts off as like an archetype, like she's like I'm the tough lawyer and I'm all business and I'm gonna teach you a lesson, Tom Cruise, and then like it kind of unwinds a little bit like that, then it kind of falls into predictability.
I think as well, though. I don't know. I feel like her performance is quite good, though, and I think it makes up like those tropes that you talk about. And I think the character is pretty well written. I also think that there's another side character in there as well that gets some exploration as well. But I think this film is really about Tom Cruise's character.
Yeah, can we talk about Tom Cruise in this movie, because like he's an asshole in this.
I mean, yes, he
He's
is.
not a good bloke.
He's a wisecracking guy that has got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, some
God.
might say. And but he's also at the same time taking the easy way, the lazy way.
He's a bit of a larrikin, as usual.
Yeah, he is. But I actually enjoyed Tom Cruise in this film. I thought he was quite good.
Brenton, this movie finally put me to my boiling point. Brenton, imagine my head on a kettle and I'm fucking boiling because I'm over it, Brenton. I am so
What are you over?
I'm so sick. I think this is the movie that finally broke me. I'm so fucking sick of seeing Tom Cruise movies that are just about people telling Tom Cruise how fucking great he is. You know what I mean? Like, everyone in this movie is like, you're the best, Tom Cruise. And like, I'm so sick of movies starring Tom Cruise where the main like conflict is Tom Cruise not believing in himself. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I've seen this like 12 times now. It's like,
I don't necessarily agree with that, man. Sorry. Like, I don't think you can label this film as a film that's like everyone tells Tom Cruise he's great, because Tom Cruise has got a lot of... Oh, whoa, hang on. Just let me say my point. Like, I feel...
I guess I gotta.
I feel like he is a character in this that is obviously... He's a talented lawyer. He's someone that is very talented.
He loves his baseball.
He does, but he's waiting. He wants to win his case. So he will do any means necessary to get the best deal for his clients, even that involves not sticking to morally what is probably correct. So this film is asking that question of whether it is better to like be the lawyer and to take the deal, to put yourself out of the race because it is the easy way, it is kind of the right way, but at the same time, or whether it is better to do the right thing and to stand up for honor and for truth and for these things that the justice system is kind of meant to stand for, and what the armory, I guess, itself is meant to stand for as well. And so it asks those questions. Whether I get that Tom Cruise is an arsehole at the start of this film. That's the point. He's got a chip on his shoulder.
He reminds me of Stifler if he was a lawyer.
Oh, really? Yeah. I wouldn't say he's that crass. Like he's I think it like
he's a bit arrogant. He's a little bit cocky. Like,
no, he is definitely. I think there's that side to him, but I think that's. It's part of his career. It's part of his job. This,
We're still talking about Tom Cruise or the character?
No, I think we're talking about the character for sure. Like, I don't know.
Also, because it's worked for him. Like, he solves cases so quickly, so he's like, this kind of works for me.
No, I don't know if it's necessarily the film is just like spouting how great Tom Cruise is. I don't know if I agree with that. Demi Moore is like very critical of Tom Cruise for most of the film.
Yeah, but like, normally his shit works. Like, he doesn't really fuck up that much in the movie.
No, because I think it's not so much that he fucks up. I think it's more so that he himself fucks up. It's more asking the question whether he will stand up and be a man and take this case on and do what is morally probably correct for the sake of his clients, as opposed to just trying to do what he would usually do and take the deal and get the pretty picture and the set of steak knives, as is said in the film. So yeah, I think there's a bit more to it than that. Can I just wanted to address another point that you said about the lawyer talk. That was it. So I just wanted to take it back to as well and address your point about the lawyer talk and how it's a bit confusing and whatnot, and the terms are maybe a bit too fast paced and like all this information is kind of spouted at you. I think I agree with you. I think Sorkin has this way of doing that so that it is kind of understandable, and for the most part it is, and you're following along. I think for me the thing that was the most confusing was actually at the start mainly, but like the use of like the characters' names that we hadn't necessarily been fully introduced to yet. Like we're introduced to all these characters.
Oh yeah, and they chew through them. Yeah.
Lieutenant Dawson, like all these different character names. Santiago, we're talking about all these people, and it takes a while for you to really understand what you're talking about. But I think at the same time, I think there's a beauty in that use of dialogue, and I think it's a real risk to do that in a film.
It is.
And I do appreciate it in the sense of like I want the characters to be talking as they would, and for me to be following along as best I can. If there's enough that I can follow at the best I can, and for me, what I think is so glorious about the screenplay is that it all comes together in that final kind of courtroom scene.
But here's the thing: it takes way too long to get there, in my opinion.
Oh, I disagree. I was fully invested this whole film.
Okay, I'll rephrase that then. Do you think that final scene is so much stands head and shoulders above the rest of the movie in far as quality?
No, because I think the rest of the film builds to it.
I don't know. I think there's two great scenes in this movie. They both have Jack Nicholson in them, and like, I don't know. I feel like this is a movie that really requires you to pay attention the whole time. I would argue. Like, you really got to stay focused, because and I think the reason for this is because it inherits what it did on stage, because it started off as a stage play and Aaron Sorkin adapted it. And I think it didn't fully utilize the fact that it's a movie because so many of these characters are just talking and talking and talking. And I think I know it's Sorkin, he's famous for that, but I think this film would have benefited if there was more visual language as opposed to like talk.
Yeah, I agree. I think where that corniness comes into is actually from the visual language used in the film. They try to like provide these shots of like different things that are like, you know, trying to tell you something, but I think it's a bit too obvious. But I agree with your point. I think that like there could be a bit more visual flair to the film. But at the same time, you look at the production design, you look at the use of color, you look at the use of light, and it's still a very good looking film. Like,
yeah, I don't think it's an outstanding looking film. I didn't find anything that
but
special.
I think it's well done for what it is and what it's going for, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think it's auteur, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think the directing is like you come for it.
No.
I think it's serviceable. Like,
Totally.
it's nice. But like, I think, you know what? I should give it more credit because you know, the second half of this movie is set in that courtroom, and as a director, to make that visually interesting is quite hard, especially setting it in one room. So like, yeah, I do get around that. Did you like the court stuff? Did you prefer like when we were in the first half doing the investigating, or did you prefer the second half in the courtroom?
I mean, the climaxes in the film happen in the courtroom, so like, yeah, like those scenes are like integral. But at the same time, like I said, I think there's some great scenes. There's a great scene that happens at the military base. I think that's really strong. There's a few scenes that happen.
Is it
out
the
there,
lunch
actually.
scene?
There's a scenes that are interview rooms, like when they're interviewing their clients and whatnot. There's some great scenes in those rooms as well.
Do you think there's a little bit of overacting in this? Like,
No,
I don't know.
no.
I don't know. I think, especially with Tom Cruise, I think there's a little bit like he's doing a little bit of that old.
How would you term overacting?
And that's very true. Like I don't know, where he has big bursts of emotion and it's kind of unwarranted. Like, I'm like, settle down. Like I understand the tension, but it's like I think you're overreacting a little bit. Like,
I think that we go
like he's screaming at his clients, he's screaming in the courtroom. Like I get it, but also like it takes away the realism a little bit because like no one would be like that in real life.
But how do you know? Like on it. Like I think my argument to that is more so that like I appreciate performances like this in the sense of like I think that like films like this and situations like this, scenarios like this demand a heightened version of like what people would do because it's an exaggerated event of something that could happen. It's like the most exaggerated event of something that could happen in real life. So these characters are like any good film or any good piece of art or play or anything is about like circumstances that are extraordinary happening to, I guess, to like maybe ordinary people and how those ordinary people react to extraordinary circumstances. And given that these circumstances are so extraordinary, let's say, I feel like it demands a use of something that isn't necessarily real or not something that you necessarily can see in everyday life or you see aspects of because it's so serious, the situation, and it's so heightened, the situation, that of course the characters are going to act like this. I feel like when we meet Tom Cruise and he like has his witty remarks and he has his kind of banter with everyone else, it is quite normal and it is quite subdued and realistic, but it's those moments that he has those outbursts which are connected and I think make sense to the character that it didn't really bother me.
Oh, okay. I hear what you're saying, like, because you find out why he's a little bit, I don't know, emotionally unhinged. But like, I don't know. I for me, it only really worked with Jack Nicholson, who, by the way, I wanted so much more of in this movie. I thought he was going to be more prominent.
I'm glad he wasn't. I'm glad he wasn't overused. I liked that he had his few
You think it makes it
scenes.
more special?
Yeah, totally.
But God, he's so fucking good in this movie. Like Jack Nicholson alone, like every scene he's in, he steals it.
He's incredible.
He reminds me most of like when he's in The Departed, because he isn't in Departed that much either. But like it reminds me of that kind of performance. Like when he's in the room, everyone fucking fears him, and he's so in control, and like every word he delivers expertly. Like, God, he's so good, isn't he? Like, he's so good.
Yeah, he's such a great actor. Like, incredible.
Did you see? I saw this in
One
the
of the
headlines the
best.
other day. One of the journalists, because all this press that's around Joker right now, one of the journalists told a story how they went up to Jack Nicholson at the Golden Globes like a couple years ago,
Right?
And Jack, and they said to him, "Oh, Jack Nicholson, would you, what do you think of like Heath Ledger's Joker and all that kind of stuff?" And Jack Nicholson said that he was disappointed that Warner Brothers didn't ask him back, and he really wants to play the Joker again as old.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, good on you, Jack Nicholson. It's like you could do that again.
Yeah, I could see him doing it again. It'd be interesting, I'd love to see that for sure. Yeah,
But it baffles me that Jack Nicholson didn't win an Oscar for this.
I can't remember who won it that year. I think he was nominated though, but
Yeah.
it's a pretty incredible performance as always. I think from a great actor. Yeah.
Yeah, and with Demi Moore, I love what she does with her acting. I think she's quite lovely and quite powerful, and there's also surprising things with her character, which I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. But I think the movie's like a little bit obvious with its sexism towards her.
In what way? Can you elaborate? Because I agree,
like especially with the opening, how she's trying to get the job, and all the old officers are like, "Huh, go get a coffee, sweetheart. We'll let the men take care of this." And her, initially, like, I don't know, it's a little bit cliche, her character at the start, but it does eventually unwind to show some complexities. But
which I think is a strength to the character and to the film. But I get what you're saying. Yeah,
I don't know, like. Yeah, I was surprised with Sorkin. I thought it'd be more subtle, like, because he's good with that. But like, I guess,
yeah, like I think like it's what you said. It's providing like a cliche, and then it's kind of like trying to subvert it a little bit. Yeah, as it goes on, and provide a bit more meat to a situation that you think you understand. Because yeah, I think her character actually does some surprising things from those cliches that you see at the start, and it's that's a strength, I think, to the character and to the performance. So Nathan, now that we've spoken about A Few Good Men, do you have any other points you want to make before we get into some
let's rate it, buddy.
Yeah, man. So
Thursday night, would you put on A Few Good Men?
Yeah, I would. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a good movie to sit down and watch on a Thursday night. I think it's perfect for that. I think
it's not that long, which is nice.
It's great. It's good length. I think you could sit down with everyone and people would get something out of it, and it'd be a good talking point. And I think you'd walk away and go, "Oh, I'm glad I watched that."
I don't think it's a movie where you could sit down with everyone, only because I seriously emphasize this. You'd need to pay attention. Like there's a lot of details dropped, and like if you phase out for a couple minutes and you zone back in, like there are little details you gotta like pay attention to, you know?
Again, I don't know if I totally disagree with that, because I think it all comes together in that last scene and you'll understand the crux of what's going on. I think this film does a really good job of stringing you along for the ride. And I feel like it does enough for like for normal people that don't necessarily understand all these terms to get on board and get among. I think Sorkin always does that really well. So, I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Brenton, I'm a little bit on the fence, because I'm just trying to think what someone would get out of this movie today. Like, why sit down and watch A Few Good Men? I mean, obviously, we haven't even talked about the famous line yet. Like, obviously, the one thing everyone knows about this movie is the famous line. And when it's said, it's pretty fucking incredible. But like, outside that, what would you get for... I guess this does say some stuff about patriotism and like following orders, and like... It'd be very interesting to see what they do with Guantanamo Bay like today, actually, because that's, Guantanamo is very under fire. Yeah, it is good. I've given worse things on this podcast thumbs up, to be honest with you, but like, I guess, seeing Jack, it's worth it. I can't really put my finger on it why you wouldn't want to watch this movie, but like, I don't think you get that much out. Like, what did you get out of it?
In terms of what?
Like, we're like, wow, that movie, it was... Yeah,
I said, I think you'd be surprised, man. I think people would really get amongst this, and I think like regular people would sit down and watch this and be like, that was a really good classic movie, and watching it today, I'm glad I watched it. Like, that was a real good time. On top of that, I think it's a good talking point to start discussing about things, about like the events of this film and why certain things happened, and I think it's a really good time, and I think like people would get something out of watching this. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I will give it a thumbs up, but I'm just gonna say to the listeners, like, don't hype it that much. Like,
no, this isn't like the greatest film of all time. Like, it's not like it's not a masterpiece. But if I'm gonna say thumbs up or thumbs down, it's for sure a thumbs up, for sure. Like,
yeah, I think it's good. I think it's just a good movie. I think it's also surprisingly light. To be honest with you, like, maybe this is good for a Thursday night. It's like actually, you know what? If you're feeling tense from work and you wanted to be reminded that maybe your work environment isn't that shitty, watch this one, because like you can see these lawyers just like getting no sleep for months on end. So like, Yeah, Brenton, let's spoil this thing.
Let's do it. Nathan, let's talk about the spoilers. Spoiling this movie, yeah.
Can we start off spoilers by having an ethical discussion, Brenton? Let's talk about... Let's put on our monocles and have an intelligent conversation. Would you take... Because at one point in this movie, he gets offered 6 months, right? Instead of like 12 years. We have the benefit of hindsight because we know how that plays out. But if you were in those shoes, would you take the 6-month sentence for something you didn't do?
I think...
Given the odds?
Well, wait, as in who would take the 6 months? As in you were the lawyer? Like...
So imagine you and me, Brenton. We've just killed someone at our military camp.
No, Nathan, like, I feel like the more interesting questions is actually whether, if you were in Tom Cruise's position, whether you would actually stand up and do something about it, or whether you would give them the 6 months. 6 months.
All right, let's answer both those questions. If you were the victim, would you take the deal?
I can't actually fathom myself being the victim and taking, like, being the victim in the first place. I think
Because you know you're innocent. Like, you knew you didn't deliberately. Like,
well, not even that. I just can't imagine myself being in the military and having like bashed the shit out of like. Yeah, I don't think I'd even be in that position to start with.
Yeah, but like, you know, use your imagination. Like forget the crime. Just imagine if like you were offered. Like, imagine you did a crime but like you didn't actually do it, and like, you know, you knew the chances of the situation, and you said, like, hey, here's 6 months, man. Rather than like 12 years, which is extremely likely if you say no. Like, would you have said no?
There's more caveats to it though. It's 6 months, and don't you get like discharged as well?
Yeah. Like, I know if I was in their shoes, I might have even, like, because it's so risky. I think in real life, I probably would have taken the 6 months.
Yeah, I think that's a good chance I would have, but part of me would have been like, fuck this. Like, that's...
You would have flipped the table in the interview.
No, like,
fuck
you're a murderer on your, like, criminal record for the rest of your life. Like, for...
That is also true.
Like, that's...
I guess, yeah, like... I guess the time doesn't matter in that sense when you think about it in long term.
Like, what are you going to do? You get discharged from the army and then you, like, try to get a job somewhere and it's like, oh, well, he's a fucking murderer. Like...
That's also true. Yeah. So then to answer that question, like, I know it depends on, like, your Tom Cruise question. Like, I guess it depends on how good of a lawyer you are. Like, for Tom Cruise, I think he was pulling shit. I think he was pulling it out of his ass. Like, he was like, yeah, I'll get you off it. But I think he had no fucking clue until the very last minute on how to actually do that.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think he thought the case had like some merit, but like I don't, like he says during the film, I don't think he ever expected to really win, which is why I think they do, because he kind of throws caution to the wind and he just goes at it. Because when you got nothing to lose, like, you know, until he does have something to lose, like, you know, until he does, until it becomes a question of whether he he falsely accuses an officer of something which they, you know...
Which is bullshit. Like, you know, like, is that actually a thing where, like anyone can have allegations? Like, I guess because the guy's been flown from Cuba. Like, I guess, like, you got to have good evidence to do that.
I think it's like, if you can't, like... It'd be like accusing, like, the Prime Minister of like murder or something like that. Like, and taking them...
So you got to have good fucking evidence in, like, a strong case. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Which they don't, so it's a miracle they get them in the court in the first place. Like,
totally.
But yeah, no, I found that really, really interesting. Did you like the Cuba Gooding Jr. cameo we got in this movie?
I was like, I did a double take and was like, that's Cuba Gooding Jr. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's him. And then he just kind of left and he was gone.
Yeah, you did one scene. I'm like, what are you doing in this movie? It's like, I loved it. I was like, I was waiting for him just to burst into, like, you know, where's my money? It's like, show me the money. Like. Like, Cuba, you're in the wrong movie.
Nathan, let's talk about the scene. Let's talk about the line. Let's talk about the scene. Let's talk about the moment, which is, you can't handle the truth. And that brilliant monologue performed by Jack Nicholson, which is, like, genuinely incredible. Like, it's such a fantastic moment.
It is amazing, isn't it?
Like, it's like, that line is famous for, like, absolutely, it's part of cinematic history for a reason, you know, like...
People know the movie A Few Good Men. The reason, like, people still remember this movie is because of that line.
Totally.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, it is extraordinary. And, like, the whole movie, you're like, oh, he's gonna say it! Like, when he gets dragged into court, you're like, oh, this is the moment! And, like, when Tom Cruise is like, I want the truth, and you're, like, sitting in the couch, and you're like, oh, he can't handle it. And then Jack Nicholson says it, and you're like, ah! Did you squeal?
Yeah, like, it wasn't even so much the line, it was everything that followed it. That moment is just perfect. It's just...
I had no idea there was this amazing monologue that followed it. Like,
yeah.
I just knew the line. And he's like, and he goes to this great, like, it's probably the smartest point in the movie, because he's saying, hey, you need us monsters in the world, and, like, you know, we're the ones that, like, you keep you safe at night, and you're like, he's got a point, you know? He's not right, but he has got a point.
He must be, like, a pretty dull officer, though, when you think about it. Like, when he immediately after it goes to it, did you give the code red? Did you give the code red? You're goddamn right I did! And it's like...
It's like, I can't believe you admitted this in the court. Like, you did the crime.
Totally. But
like, a man that smart as well.
Hey, if you know... But it's like, it's that thing, isn't it? That pride and that honor, like, gets in the way of logic in that moment. And, yeah, and he pays. He pays the price, and he should pay the price for that, you know... for what he did.
I love it as well. I love it when, like, he finally admits it, because, like, you think, like, the movie does that classic, like, cliche thing where you think Tom Cruise has lost the case, and, like, everyone's looking miserable, and, like, he walks, and, like, Jack Nicholson tries to leave, but then Tom Cruise is like, I haven't finished yet, bitch. And then Jack Nicholson sits back down, like, Oh, I love it when he's like sassy to the judge as well. He's like, "You're letting this happen in your court," and the judge is like, "Shut up."
Yeah, totally. And then he's like, "You'll call me Your Honor or Judge."
Yeah, I think I've deserved it. Like.
Yeah, I think I've earned that. Yeah, there's a lot of great lines in this movie. Can we?
I was surprised with the bloody conversation with Jack Nicholson when they were having lunch.
Yeah,
like I thought that was like, almost as equally as good. I was glued.
It's
to
again
this
that
movie.
moment that like Tom Cruise, who we later find out was doing that intentionally to see how the man would react, and like again that like Jessup just gives it all away in that moment of like he just
He's like,
can't
ask
handle
me politely, and you're like, Jesus, like, ugh.
Yeah,
like,
definitely got a.
I'll use please and thank you around you, Jack Nicholson. Like,
there was a few power plays in that scene that were just like incredible, and then like again the screenplay is like very interesting, like how everyone else treats Jessup, like how Kevin Bacon's character treats him when he comes into court that day, and he like, can you please do this? Can you please do that? Whenever he talks to him, and like how much it infuriates Jack Nicholson when Tom Cruise just never gives him that basic basic courtesy.
And Jack Nicholson tries to have a swing at him because he's so pissed. Like,
it's great.
Do you
so
think
great.
Brenton? Oh, it's amazing. Do you think Brenton, this movie would have been improved if Jack Nicholson wore the same bandage from Chinatown in this?
Well, I think it would have been a comedy, I think, rather than a drama. Let's just say. Like, can you imagine you can't handle the truth, like with that thing on his
with
face?
his fucking nose bandage. Oh, that would have been great. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Do you want to talk about maybe the relationship between Demi Moore and Tom Cruise?
Yeah, sure.
I was surprised it wasn't romantic.
I'm glad it wasn't.
I mean, it can't because you think it is, and then it's not. But then they go on a date, but then it's not, and then they never kiss, and you're like, oh, there you go.
Yeah, I think it's a strength to the film that they don't. I think it's more interesting that the characters come to respect each other on a professional level.
They shake hands at the end,
as well as personal, in the sense of like, because they're so opposed at the beginning in so many ways, and you think that it's going to be some sexual tension. And I guess you could say there is a bit.
There is at that baseball court. It's all sexual tension.
There is sexual tension in this film, and even like when when their last moment together in the film, when they look to each other, like there's that moment.
Kiss.
But it's not about that at the same time. Again, it's about that acknowledgement of respect and that of the other person's code of honor, so to speak, and how that they both have grown together through this experience and have shown how they've bettered themselves as individuals. It's a great moment, and I'm glad it wasn't belittled or anything, just to give a moment of romance that the film just doesn't need.
No, because I think at the end of the second act, when they say we all need a good night's rest, and like she comes over to his house, like the second like she knocks on the door and he answers it and it's just her and she's not in her uniform, I'm like, oh fuck, is this gonna be it? Like, did you think that?
Not really. I was never really worried about it. So I think it.
Oh,
again,
really? I was falling to it.
I wasn't worried that there was going to be romantic, like they were going to sleep together or they were going to, kiss or whatever. Like it just never crossed. Obviously there was sexual tension there again, but it wasn't like at the forefront of my mind. So again, I think it's credit to the film that like it was more about their relationship, and those aspects of the relationship that are introduced at the start of the film, and how they kind of are able to overcome those, to work together and to become friends. And maybe they become something more after it. I don't know. Like,
they will get a sequel and they have like a few good men babies, and it's just like go to military school.
A few good babies. Yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, that'd be amazing for a sequel. Oh, can I talk about a gripe I have with this movie, Brenton?
Sure, man.
How the hell does the witness under protection have a loaded gun that he can kill himself
I know. And the film fully admits it in that scene, like when he comes back drunk and he just says...
Tom Cruise is like, what the fuck?
How the fuck does that happen? You know what I mean? Like, how the
Even
fuck
before you see the gun, you see the man as a full operational sword by his fucking side. I'm like, there's several ways he could have killed himself.
It's crazy. And it's like, he didn't hang himself with his shoelace. He didn't slit his wrists with a butter knife. He fucking shot himself in the head with the the pistol from his ceremonial fucking garments. Like, holy shit.
You can't see this, listeners, but my hands are just up in the air, just aghast. Like,
at least the film acknowledges it, but at the same time, like, it's a fair point. And then part of me started thinking was, well, did they just give him like, was there a fucked up thing going on that they gave him that uniform with the knowledge that maybe he will just give it and it will work out in Jessup's favor? I don't know, but like, it's pretty fucked up. Like, it just got me thinking, and yeah, like I think it's a gripe worth having for sure.
Yeah, I was just like, really? It's like, come on. It's like, Oh, just, yeah. Did you also, I don't know, did you like the two main boys, the soldiers that were, on trial and all that? Because, we didn't really talk about it in non-spoilers, but,
I did. I think they brought something interesting with their performances, and that was that they portrayed that kind of military life, that they're kind of dead behind the eyes in a way, and they're so caught up in this machine that they've...
Did you think there was a little bit of sexual undertones?
Between who?
The two boys.
No. Not at all.
Oh, no, the way they kept looking at each other, I'm like,
No, God, no.
Where did they get that gagging stuff in the first place, Brenton?
No, not at all. Not at all.
No. Oh, you know what though? What I will give the movie, I bloody loved it, how at the end, they still got fired.
Yes.
From the military. I really respect that decision.
And they got dishonorably discharged, it was great.
Yeah.
But I didn't love the moment. Again, they followed it up with this shitty, cheesy moment where it was like, what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong? And it was like, because we didn't we didn't stand up for what was right. And I was like, oh, fuck off.
Fuck off.
Like,
it reminds me what is it, 12 Angry Men? How the guy at the end is like, where are all the racists? It's like, shut up.
Totally.
It's I couldn't have any of it.
But then it was followed by that great moment. That was a bit melodramatic and cheesy again. But I liked the moment where Tom Cruise said you don't. I think it's a really good line when he says you don't need a patch to have honor. And then the guy salutes him. I think that's a great.
But God, your eyes fucking roll when he says that, don't you?
No, I think it's a great line.
You were like, no, I felt something. Nathan.
It's a good line. It's a fucking movie, man. You still need to have the romanticized idea of that.
So fucking cheesy. Yeah, is this what a courtroom looks like? It's no shit. Your father was a lawyer. You know what a fucking courtroom looks like.
Nathan, shall we talk about what stills this movie?
Yeah, because, there's no other... It was very easy. You and I didn't even have to talk about what's still this movie. Because,
we both
there's
agreed.
only one frame in the movie that is iconic.
Nathan, you can't handle the truth. Oh,
so if you've seen this movie, or you know what? You've probably... even if you haven't seen this movie, you would have seen just, a clip of him saying that line. Right?
Totally, yeah.
Everyone's seen says what stills this movie is Jack Nicholson's face as he says that line.
Nathan, what's amazing about this monologue, even to total, and this captures it, is how his jaw kind of opens and he bares his teeth, and he bares his bottom teeth as well during this whole
a fucking bear.
He's like, "Rah!"
Oh, could you imagine just off frame, he's holding up his hands like bear claws?
Guys,
Rrr.
if you don't know what still does this movie, this segment on the podcast, go to our YouTube channel and there you'll find you'll see that we put up the images that we choose each week, and it's one frame that's chosen from the film each week that either Nathan or myself or both of us choose, and it's either something that can be very funny, it can be something that's very poignant and something that sums up the film, a frame that just captures something that the DOP's just captured, and you go, yeah, that's the essence of the film, or something that's just fucking hilarious, Jack Nicholson with his bandage over his nose in Chinatown. But
Jack Nicholson has twice stilled a movie.
He has.
And tell you what though, it's funny because without context, this frame could be very funny.
Nathan, that's what I mean. I feel like people need to go to our YouTube channel and just listen to those sound effects we were doing just before, and just look at the image and just hear this sound effect. Please do it. I hope you've got that open right now, ladies and gentlemen, and just enjoy it. Look at the image and.
I like to think someone's smacked Jack Nicholson on the ass, and he was like, "Ooh, you can't handle the truth." It's oh,
you can't handle these cheeks. Yeah.
Oh, you must have said that line in real life heaps of times, right? It's
Fuck, yes, I have. Yes, I have. In fact, right now I'm currently doing a show that tours. I've spoken about this on the podcast before. As an actor, I'm currently in a show that's touring around this country and a couple of others. And in it, I actually say this speech from A Few Good Men, which we had not discussed.
Yeah, we were having beers last night, and you fucking launched it to him and I was very drunk, and I was like, Jesus, am I having beers with Jack Nicholson? And you pull off the face mask and you're like, hello, Nathan.
I do that whole speech and we talk about it in the show. Yeah, it's so I do know that speech off by heart. Yeah,
that's extraordinary, Brenton. Can you give us a little taster now?
I sure can.
Grab your popcorn, listeners.
Let's where should I go for a minute? I'll ignore the other person's lines, but I'll say.
Do you want me to do the Tom Cruise thing? I want the truth.
No. I'll just take it away. You ever served in a forward area? You ever put your life in another man's hands and asked him to put his life in yours? We follow orders. We follow orders or people die. It's that simple. Are we clear? Are we clear? You want answers? You want answers? You want answers? You can't handle the truth. We live today in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it? You? You? I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know, that all of those deaths, whilst tragic, probably saved lives, and my existence, while incomprehensible and grotesque to you, saves lives. You don't want the truth, because deep down in places you won't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. We use words like honor, code, loyalty. We use these words as a backbone of a life spent defending something. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to someone who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom of which I provide, and then questions the means of which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and be on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand a post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you're entitled to.
That's incredible. Brenton, you can't hear it now, but I'm actually putting in the sound effect of the audience again from a few episodes back. Like, they're back. The studio audience, they've appeared magically in my bedroom once more.
Yeah, my American accent probably wasn't the best then, but, YOLO. We like to share,
Mate, that is extraordinary. Like, God Sorkin deserved an Oscar for that writing. Like,
yeah,
I don't think he got it, but, that is extraordinary. Like, oh, what a take. Brenton, how did they make this?
How did they make this? Make a more of a magic, yeah. Yeah, make my magic movie.
You know what I love about this movie, Brenton? Keith Sutherland, who we haven't mentioned once.
Yeah, we haven't.
He's a bad driver, Brenton, because multiple takes were needed when he's driving them around the campsite. Do you know this fact?
No.
So Keith Sutherland, when he's like driving them around Cuba and he's like, this is the base camp, and he's like,
totally.
These are all the soldiers. And there's one point where like all these soldiers are hiking on the road and they like park so they can let the car through. There were multiple takes where Keith Sutherland accidentally hit a couple of them with the car.
Holy shit.
Because he's not a good driver.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh.
Holy fuck.
I know. And by the way, okay, side note with Keith Sutherland, how fucking terrifying is he in this movie? Jesus.
Yeah, he's scary. He's a messed up dude. Jesus Christ. Tom Cruise's Jack Nicholson impersonation, which he says in a line of this film,
which I love,
when his character is quoting Colonel Jessup, was actually not scripted at all. And
really,
yeah, Demi Moore's and Kevin Pollak's reactions are genuine. Like they weren't expecting it, and he just went into it. And also, like, Kevin Pollak, I think, gives a great performance in this film as well, and he was one of those side characters that I mentioned that I think has a bit of depth as well, and I'm glad we get to explore. I like that character.
He's just like, oh, my wife and child. He's like, I gotta get back home.
Nathan, I will say this as well, that Jack Nicholson was actually paid $5 million for 10 days' work.
Crikey, that's $500,000 a day.
Yeah.
That's not bad, is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell you what, though, when he was on set, though, Jack Nicholson told the director that when he walked into the first rehearsal, the rest of the cast rushed to their seats. It was like if royalty walked into the room.
Oh,
and then Jack Nicholson went up to the director and he said, Rob, it was so strange because I felt like a fucking Lincoln Memorial.
Do you know that it's funny because Nicholson actually later admitted with the $5 million deal thing that it was one of the few times that he can admit that the money was well spent.
Yeah, you would fucking admit that when you've been paid $5 million. Jeez.
Great. What a guy. What a character that guy is.
I fucking love him. I'm so sad he's not in stuff these days. I know he's old and he's retired, but like, bring him back. Like, he's bloody great. A less funny fact I have about this movie is that Sorkin said this is when he was writing this and he was pitching like drafts of the script to like executives, it was probably one of the worst experiences he's had as a screenwriter because an executive for the movie wrote on one of the scripts, if Tom Cruise and Demi Moore aren't going to sleep with each other, then why is she a woman?
Fucking hell, yeah.
Which is horrendous. Like, and then, Sorkin wrote back to the guy saying, women have purposes other than to sleep with Tom Cruise. And so, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, good. Some executives, it wasn't just one executive, by the way. Some executives thought the character initially was gender swapped for the sake of it. But yeah.
The Defense Department actually refused to endorse the film. This meant
Why?
I don't know. This meant that the filmmakers couldn't utilize any military installations during filming, and most of it was shot in a Culver City soundstage.
Oh, there you go. I would have never guessed that, but you know. I don't think they would have gone to Cuba, but I'm like, oh no, it looks legit.
And according to Rob Reiner, Tom Cruise would always stay after rehearsals to work on perfecting his role.
Oh, I must say, like, everyone knows this. Like, Tom Cruise is a hard-working actor, isn't he? Like,
yeah, he works his butt off.
It'd be kind of funny if Tom Cruise did stunts in this movie just for the sake of it.
Like, he just, like, instead of walking through the door, like opening the door and walking through the door, he just like smashes through the wall next to the door and just like rolls into the room. And everyone's like, for fuck's sake, man! Like
when Jack Nicholson tries to beat him up, they have this like full-on like 5-minute fight scene just like across the courtroom.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
My last fact that I have was that Jack Nicholson, when he did his "You Can't Handle the Truth" monologue, he did that take up to 40 to 50 times.
Yeah, wow,
which is bonkers. Like, oh, good on him.
And finally, I'll say that the movie's line "You can't handle the truth" was voted as the 29th movie quote by the American Film Institute out of 100. So the 29th top movie quote out of 100 from the AFI. Yeah,
iconic, absolutely iconic. Well, hey, let's look at this film's poster.
Oh, what I don't know about this one, man.
It is pretty shitty, isn't it?
It's not bad. It's not great. It's what I hate about it. I don't mind that the three characters we see, Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, and Demi Moore. That's all well and good. I kind of like that aspect of it.
They look like busts. Like
yeah. Then we have this weird American flag with like the cudgel on top of it, like with this like weird white light, as though it's like this heavenly white light as well. That it's just like it's just a bit too in your face. I don't know what this film's poster should have been. I'm trying to think.
I think it should have just been the freeze frame of Jack Nicholson's face, but that's still this movie. Like I don't know. I would have loved it. I don't know. Maybe if we were in a courtroom potentially, and we like you know. I think that would have been good, like seeing Tom Cruise standing up, like his back to the camera and that kind of stuff, like or even like the guy getting gagged, like at the start. That would have been interesting.
Maybe just Tom Cruise by himself in a courtroom.
You know, okay, it should have been like a cheesy '90s poster where like Tom Cruise is like in a suit, like leaning against like Demi Moore, like Matthew McConaughey, but he's got like a lawyer briefcase in one hand and a baseball bat in another.
Sure. Let's make it happen.
Oh, that
people.
would have been great.
So Nathan,
and title talk.
Yeah.
Very disappointed, Brenton.
Why?
I don't think there were many few good men in this movie.
Oh, come on. I love the title. I think it's a killer title. I think it's great.
Really? It has nothing to do with the movie. A few good men.
What are you
All right,
talking
go.
about?
How does it?
A few good men that actually stood up against the system and decided to like fight for what was right and like not just follow. You know,
Demi Moore's one of those, isn't she? Like,
I think it's a great title, and I think it sums up the film. I think it's great.
I would have preferred to call it... What was that sound? That's like me changing gears. I would have preferred it if it was like... I think they should have called it You Can't Handle the Truth.
No, I disagree, but we agree to disagree on that one, I think.
Oh, I suppose. Bloody hell.
Well, Nathan, now that we've got rid of the power from ourselves, shall we pass the power? Power to the people. Let's pass it to the people, the power.
Rotten Tomatoes. Bloody... They're all throwing roses at the stage, Brenton, because the critics gave it 82 and the audiences gave it 89. So,
hey, it's a good
loved
film.
all around, buddy.
Including from Jay Boyer from Orlando Sentinel, who says...
Boyer?
As you may have suspected, Jack Nicholson steals the show. His Colonel Nathan Jessup isn't in a lot of scenes, but when he's there, you can't take your eyes off him. Well said, Jay. Well said. Couldn't agree more. I think, he's just electrifying.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah. God, I love Jack Nicholson. This might even be my favourite Jack performance.
You might be your favourite? Wow. Yeah.
What's your fave?
Oh, I don't know, man. He's so good. I loved him in Chinatown. I love him in this. I love him in The Departed. I think he's great in as well. I think
he's fucking excellent. Departed.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. These films. You just what an actor.
Pretty good, isn't it?
Oh, The Shining. The fucking Shining, man. Like God. Like.
That's your favorite?
I don't know if that's my favorite, but it's up there. Like I just think he's remarkable.
He's done some pretty good movies, hasn't he? Like,
yeah.
And obviously Batman. Although TBH, I don't actually love his Joker that much. Controversial.
I think it's good for what the film is. Like, I don't know if it's like when you think back at the Jokers, like, I think he's like, given the context of the film and the style of the film and the setting of that film, I think it works really well.
Yeah, I do agree. I guess like for what Tim Burton was going for at the time.
Yeah, totally.
Like, yeah, I think Michael Keaton is more crazier in that movie than Jack Nicholson.
Some might say so. That one scene where he fucking like just loses his shit
Smashes
at the Joker.
the glass.
Yeah, like that's it's great.
Amazing.
It's great.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. TV Guide liked this movie, Brenton. They gave it 3 out of 4 and said the final scene when Kathy locks horns with Jessup more than makes up for the predictability of what's come before. Yeah, do you find it predictable, Brenton?
A little, yeah.
Just a wee bit, just a tad. I agree, yeah.
Garen M gives it 2.5 stars and says A Few Good Men is just too dry and slow. They spelt 2 with a 110. What a fail.
Oh, wow.
It lacks a point and a reason for being there. I like the famous quote though. You can't handle the truth. I disagree, but you've made your point, I guess, on this as well.
I do think the film has a point, like, especially like bringing down a powerful figure. I feel like, especially after Me Too, even though Jack Nicholson doesn't do sexual assault, I feel like just taking down a very powerful man, I think that would resonate more today than it did even in the 90s. Brenton's like mulling over, he's like stirring some soup, he's like,
Sure.
Well, Anne S., she gave it 4.5 stars and she said, this is one of my favourite movies and likely the one I've viewed the most. Excellent drama all around. Every scene is compelling. All actors top notch. Never did understand why they didn't autopsy Santiago to find out why he died. It's a good point, actually. I mean, then again, that's not really the contention. It's not about how he died. It's about...
I think they did, though, and they were like, oh, there was... But they couldn't clarify whether it was poison on the rag for some reason. I can't remember, but it was like... But yeah, like,
I do love that doctor on the stand where he's like, no, you're a doctor, aren't you? And he's like, yes. He's like, oh, I believe my doctor. And he like Kevin Bacon turns to the jury. He's just like, no, I'm not a doctor myself, but did you poison? It's like, I love that.
Angel Fox says, so here's the question. Is this superior to the original stage play, or the opposite?
Would you prefer seeing this as a play?
Not really. I was thinking that during the film. I was like, yeah, I'd rather watch this as a film, to be honest. Like,
I disagree, actually. I think it might be stronger on stage.
I don't know, dude. Like, maybe. I'd have to see it on stage.
Apparently, it had a great run in Broadway. Like, I get around that. And lastly, Paul Anthony Nugent from YouTube, he wrote, I demand a trial by combat. Could you imagine he launches into that speech and like at the end of like Tyrion in season 4, he just says those lines.
I demand a trial by combat. Everyone goes, oh shit. And
no, that would have been amazing if fucking like, Pedro Pascal rocks up as like the Viper. Like,
I will be your champion. Yeah.
That would be amazing. Like,
that is A Few Good Men. And that we're not just talking about Nathan and myself. No, we're talking about the film A Few Good Men. And Nathan, what a good time, guys! If you want to get in touch with us, you can always find us at our email address, but you can also find us on Twitter. And obviously, the show is also on YouTube, where you can comment on our vids, or on SoundCloud, or on I was going to say iTunes. No, it's on the podcast app. As well. So, guys, get in touch, send us a review, tell us your thoughts, tell us what you thought of the film itself, whether you love it, whether you hate it, whether you just enjoy Jack Nicholson's face, whatever it is. Just let us know. Like, we want to hear
Let us know. All of the above.
Yeah.
Well, Brenton, I'm here to give you your sentence now, buddy.
Oh, good.
It looks like I'm going to have to discharge you from the podcast. I'm sorry.
But what did I do? What did I do wrong?
Brenton, sometimes, banter can be worn also as a badge, or whatever the fuck Tom Cruise says.
Wow, so prolific.
All right, now get the fuck out of my house.
Oh, okay.